Hey, and welcome to Dave's Tesla Stories. I'm out in my Tesla today. Wait, no, I'm not. I'm riding my bicycle. With Florida being the epicenter of the outbreaks right now, I think it's in our best interest to not go outside as much, to stay in as much as we can. So I don't really get out of my car very much. I spend a lot more time on my bicycle. In fact, I would argue I go more miles and I spend more time on here than I ever do on my car at this point. For the last 6 weeks or so, that seems to be the case. So it's interesting, for sure, but it is what it is. I can't control the universe. So we just try to get around and do the best we can at things. I do have a mask on my bicycle just in case. I like to keep it there. You never know where you're gonna stop or what's gonna happen. So I just keep one of these masks here. I always try to wear a mask when I'm out in public. So I don't wear it when I'm riding actively, but I will wear it if I stop anywhere. So there you go. But that's not to say I don't drive sometimes. Sometimes I'm around and have a chance to get out a little bit. It's not as often as I'd like. In fact, we don't have a lot of opportunities to go a lot of different places. Yeah, stuff is open and we can go grocery shopping and we can still do some activities around. But you want to be trying to be careful because the number of cases here has been rather high on coronavirus, and just trying to be safe and be smart about things. So don't spend as much time going out and doing stuff as maybe I'd like, so I don't get to drive my car very often. Now, I do have a plan still to go up and see another SpaceX launch, or another launch if there's another one. There was 2 scheduled over the last couple of months. Both of them were scrubbed kind of late, but we had kind of decided it was kind of iffy anyway based on the weather. Didn't want to go through what we went through last time, so we just held off and didn't go this time. But we're going to try again. I'd like to go up and see a launch, like to take the kids to go see a launch sometime, so hopefully we'll be able to do that in the not too distant future. There's supposed to be some more launches coming up toward the end of July, so maybe we'll get a chance. We'll take the cameras with us and everything anyway, and if we get a chance to see it, I'll share it. So anyway, as far as not getting out, the decision I made was to change my charging strategy again, and my charging strategy now became going ahead and charging to 80%, using that energy until it got down to 20%, and then going ahead and charging again back to 80%. So I don't leave it plugged in. I don't charge it every three days. I just kind of go back and forth. Now, I'm not using my car as an office at this point, and the main reason for that is because it is so hot. Even though I turn the air conditioner on and sit in the car, it's so hot in the garage that it still feels warm, and it takes more energy to keep the car cool. So for now, I'm not using the car in that way. It's not my mobile office at the moment, so I've kind of changed that up a little bit for now. That'll change again, I'm sure, because we're going to be home for an extended period of time, we've been told at work. So I'm sure I'll be doing it again. Just for now, I'm not doing it. So that charging, going from 20 to 80 seems to be working pretty well for me. It keeps the energy going in the car and makes it kind of comfortable as far as the amount of energy that I use and keeping it charged and so forth. And it's pretty easy. Now, I did have a day the other day. I had a momentary thing where I was thinking about range anxiety. So I was sitting at home and we were talking about going out and running a couple of errands. And I had run the car down to about 28% or so. So that would be somewhere on the order of, let's see, 10% would be 20 miles. So it'd be about 50 something miles or so, 50, 52, 53 miles. There's always some buffer in there, but somewhere around 50 something miles. I think, in fact, when I looked at it, I think it said 56 miles. So that's what I had left. And we were going to go out for a couple of errands. And I was like, maybe I should give it a little charge before I go. So I gave it about a half an hour's worth of charge because we were getting ready and putting some stuff together and whatever. So I gave it about a half an hour's worth of charge, and that took it up to, 36% or so. I got a few percent out of it. So that was probably more like 75 miles or something like that. And I knew we were going to drive something like, in the circuit we were doing, because we had a couple of places we were going to stop, it was probably going to be about 30 miles, maybe 40 miles that we were going to drive. Now, of course, it was really hot. We were going to be sitting for a while in a couple of places, so it was going to use a little energy anyway. So if we had to wait somewhere and had to have the air on, it was going to use a little more energy that way. So I had that momentary thought about range anxiety, and it wasn't really a range anxiety so much of it as it was that I was thinking about what it was going to mean to have that. So as I was driving along, I actually found myself looking at the battery indicator and seeing how much it was going down. So we did this part of the trip and it took 5%, and we did this part of the trip and it took 5%. Then we did this part and it took 8%, and so on. So I was kind of monitoring as we went along. And finally, we were at our last destination and we were waiting for a few minutes for my daughter to come out from somewhere. And we were sitting there for a few minutes, and it dropped down to, it was down to, I think, 17% on the battery, which was fine. I knew it was going to take about 6% or so to go home. And I was like, that's interesting. It's going to, it's going to dip below 10% for the first time. And sure enough, it took a little longer for her to get out. We had a little bit of traffic, not a huge amount. And it was a little slow going on the way home. So it actually took, more like 7% to get home, and it used a little bit while we were sitting there in the parking lot. So by the time we got home, I was right at, I think it was at 9% when I got home. And it didn't trouble me at all that we had gotten that far down on the battery, but I just had that moment of thought about, it's interesting because I can't just stop anywhere and charge. There wasn't a Tesla Supercharger anywhere around in the circuit we were doing. There was one not too far away at the farthest distance we went, but other than that, I would have had to stop at some other one of these other networks that's at level 2 type charger that would charge up kind of slowly, and maybe I could leave it for 20 or 30 minutes and get a little bit of charge in it. So it just kind of occurred to me, and I was like, I had that funny moment where I was thinking about it, and I'm like, that's the first time I felt like there was some sort of range anxiety with trying to keep the amount of charge in the car consistent and feel like I was going to be able to get through all my errands. And it just made me stop and think that I need to make sure that if I know I'm going to do an errand, then I need to put a little bit more charge in it. Like I said, I didn't worry about it, but it just was that momentary, is this going to be a problem for me as it gets further along, because I don't plan on stopping and charging anywhere. It was really no problem. I got home, no issues, it was fine. But it was just, that's the first time I've actually had a thought where I felt like I was going to be a little bit short. Now, early on when I had the car, I had it for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I had to take a longer drive. I was driving up to a city that was about 50 miles away. So to drive up there and back, that was about 100 miles. I had charged it to 100%. I drove around for a little while I was up there, and then I had to wait for somebody that was coming out of somewhere. And so I had to wait for a little bit to do something, and then I went and met a friend for a little while. So when I was on my way home, I dropped down to about 15% when I was within range of the house. But I had that moment as I was getting close, because it was the first time I'd ever taken it on a long trip, where I felt like, wow, this is going to be close. And it was not that close. I wound up getting home with about 12%. It really wasn't a big deal. It was well above where, my own personal safety margin kind of thing. But this time was the first time where it actually dropped below that. And since I've been driving the car for a while, it just had a funny feeling to me that I was like, wow, that's kind of weird that I felt that, because I've never felt that way about the car since I've been driving it for a while. It just was kind of interesting to me that I reached a point where I was like, really? I feel like I'm gonna come up short maybe? And I didn't think I really was, but it was weird to me that I had that momentary hesitation where I thought maybe I was. And was just kind of monitoring, kept looking at the indicator there to see what the actual mileage was and how many miles I had left, because I was curious how close I was going to get. So kind of note to self, as I think about keeping the car charged between 20 and 80%, I need to kind of have a little forethought about any trips I'm going to be taking and making sure I put a little bit of charge in the car. Now, I'm glad as it turns out that I had the foresight to do that in that half an hour before we left, because I think that made the difference. I probably would have made it home with, I don't know, 2 or 3%, probably would have been okay, but the car would have probably been beeping at me and doing some things to tell me that I was getting close. So just something to kind of keep in mind as I'm driving in the future. I just need to be aware of that. So just a little thing. It's those funny things, and just because I'm not driving, I have those moments when I go, well, what am I doing with myself here? I don't spend that much time in the car these days. It was nice. I'm out doing an errand right now, and this morning I had another errand I had to run, and they're all 5-minute errands. It's really not like I'm going very far or doing anything. But as I said in my last video, I'm going to keep doing these videos. I want to keep doing things talking about the car, even though I'm really not driving it and I don't see much about it and I'm really not playing with it at all. I want to make sure that I continue to kind of keep up a little thought about it as much as I'm driving it, and just give you some thoughts. So if you have questions, let me know. If you decide to buy a Tesla, I hope you'll consider using my referral link that I'll put down below on this YouTube video, and you can get 1,000 free Supercharger miles if you're interested. So if I provide some value and you're going to buy a Tesla anyway, I hope you consider it. You get 1,000 free miles, I get 1,000 free miles, so it's always good. Anyway, hope that's helpful, and talk again soon.